Hello. It is Monday, as it always is with these videos. So, the question that I have today is actually a question that I sit with. I don't sit with it very long, but I do sit with it often. And it's a question that everyone's heard, some form of, whether asked directly to them or contextually they've been aware of it. That question is, if you were going to die tomorrow, how would you live your life? And this is a question that I think can be very helpful, but I think in a lot of ways it's a very flawed question because we have different time horizons for how we would answer that question. For instance, the tomorrow question on how you would live today is perfectly fine in itself, but it's what we extrapolate out of it that I feel like I see people get wrong when it comes to assessing what the answer means. So if you told me, if I knew, I guess, without a shadow of a doubt, that today was my last day on earth, I would actually go spend time with my wife and try to have the best day that I could, connect with family, people, maybe do a goodbye video for everyone I love, right? And some people will take that and be like, okay, so what's really important to you is family. It's like, well, yeah. And for me, I don't need that question to answer that. But this is under the assumption that tomorrow now doesn't matter. And so this question often gets used to help people understand how they want to spend their life by focusing on what matters. And I think this is actually best served in a multiple question kind of assessment. Ask that question, but also ask if you were to die next week, in a month, in a year, 5 years, 10 years, or at age 90. And looking at different answers for all those, I think, is better. Because if you told me I was going to die next week, I would also probably take the rest of the day off. And I'd probably take the rest of the week off. Something that might change is I'd probably send a message that's more work related to everyone that's I'm accountable for at work. I wouldn't tomorrow. Respectfully, I wouldn't care. With a week, I might care a little bit more. I might try to visit a family member even. I would encourage family to come visit me because a week's enough time. What about a month? Like at what point would I go back to work if you told me I was going to pass away? And I think for me, what it would really be, there's a question of family being provided for or not, right? Because a lot of people wouldn't be going to work if they didn't have to, or they would work less hours or a different job. And so I think it can be a very beautiful question of if you knew when you were going to go, would your life be different? And some people actually don't want to know. I've talked to people who say, I never want to know. I never want a heads up. Other people I've talked to have wanted a heads up. They want to know when this is going to happen. So it's personality based as well. But for me, I think a better question is finding at what point in that timeline do you feel encouraged to change your life? Because if I'm going to die in 90 years, I'm going to think, or let's say at age 90, so like 60 years from now for me, at age 30, that's far enough away that I can't fully comprehend. I've only lived 30 years, so that's 2 more of my current lives. And when we're kids, you don't really reflect on 30 years. You kind of reflect on when you shift into adulthood and then childhood feels separate. It's hard for me to look ahead properly that way. And most of what I have to look at is actually talking to people who are in their 70s, 80s, and sometimes 90s. And just hearing their thoughts and what things are common among them. And most people wish they would have spent more time with family and less time working. Hindsight's 2020. Sometimes you have to work to pay the bills. So, but for me, it's a question of when do you feel encouraged to change your life? So 60 years from now dying, it's not close enough that I can see, actually I'd be like, wow, I'll make it to 90. I mean, most people don't. So I'm good. That's great. Doesn't change much of my today. If anything, it might make me feel like I can power through difficult moments more because I know it's not for nothing. Like I'm going to live to 90. So if I knew that, it would probably make me more okay with how busy life is right now. If you told me I was going to die tomorrow, I would radically change my life. Next week, radically. Next month, radically. Everything from now to the next 5 years, now to the next year, I'd have a pretty radical shift. I'd probably work as little as possible and spend time with family. And so to me, this question becomes really helpful when you can set a timeline for action. If at what point in your future, if you were told this will be your last year of life, how far away from now does it have to be before you say, you know what, I am going all in on what I want, what I believe? And what that seems to do for me is put into perspective what you actually want out of life. And these are two different questions, the want question and the need question. Because I need to make a living to provide for my family. And I think the better question there is, if money was off the table, what would you be doing? And so these types of what if hypotheticals, they really, to me, work best when they're done in conjunction with other hypotheticals. Die tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, age 90. And if money wasn't a factor, what would you be doing with your life? And some people will say, I would just be traveling all the time. Some people just don't want to work at all. And so there's also a difficulty there because a lot of people actually don't love those types of lifestyles. They get boring after a while. Most people will actually thrive on some form of labor. That doesn't mean a 60-hour-a-week oppressive job. For some people, it's 4 hours a day or a week, or they love volunteering and want to do stuff for free. And then there are some people that I think genuinely, they could just sit on a beach all day and be fine. But most people will get bored of that over time. And so I do find it helpful for myself to ask that. And a question that I'll ask instead is, if over the next 7 days, my days were full, or how do I phrase it? Over the next 7 days, I have unlimited hours per day. What would my day be like? I like that question for me a little bit more. And again, this is searching for the question that's helpful. Because what that does for me is it says, like let's say you need to work 8 hours in a day. You just have to. There's no way around it. And maybe you like your job and you like earning money and you want to still do the work, right? You don't want to quit the job, but you're like, okay, 8 hours, but I also, maybe I'm an aspiring musician or an aspiring writer. It's like, okay, how many hours a day would you want to commit to that? And the reason I ask for a 7-day period is because you might not want to every day. So it's like, well, I want to do that 10 hours a week because it would be fun for me. Great. Where do you fit that in? Maybe you like to read. Maybe you like to go to the gym. Maybe you like to spend time with friends and family. And what I find for me, usually when I'm getting stuck or a little bit stressed with my days, it's actually more of, I get stuck more in the, I wish there was more time. I actually don't hate a lot of what I do in life. Certain things bring me more stress than others. But usually the type of stress and pressure I can feel come down to two things, and I think a lot of people can relate. Time and money. The two most fought after resources, right? So no shocker, I'm not original with that. But if there's financial stress, that's a problem. But what that does is, if there's unlimited hours in the day, right? I feel released. I could work a 12-hour day, have a slow 3-hour morning, and have a long 4-hour night doing things I enjoy. And then that gets simpler, right? And so it turns into me, actually, I don't mind working hard for money, and I don't mind having long days of doing that. What I don't like is when I lose out on things I love in the process, where I lose out on certain privileges. And then you can start to have the back and forth on like, well, what do you really need to have a happy life? Do you really need a 3-hour morning routine for that? No, but it's nice, isn't it? And so it's looking at this from, what would the fullness of life look like? And then you get everything out on the table. And then you try to pull it together and ask yourself, can I create this? Is there a version of joy in there that I can steward and control? I can create through control that I have. And in the areas that you don't have control or the ability to steward that fully and well, then you ask, how can I find joy in the circumstances that I'm presented? And this turns into a question of, over a 24-hour day, if you come home and say, I had a bad day, a question that I would want to ask you is, was the whole day bad, or were a couple hours bad? And what do you mean by bad? Was it just not good? Because maybe it was neutral or normal. And we start to categorize, and this is oversimplifying, but I'll work with clients to present this context as well. of you have bad days, neutral days, and positive or good days. How many days on average are good? How many on average are bad? How many are neutral? And what does it take for them to be in each category? And so for some people, what we'll start to look at there is, okay, this is what's required for a good day. And instead of trying to create more good days, what we'll often try to do is look at the question of maybe currently I'm at a third each, third bad, third good, third neutral, which is not what most people would call great. That's actually probably enough negative input to have someone reflect on life in general as being not good. So what we might look at is maybe we can shrink the neutral or we can push into the negative. So maybe 33% of all criteria hit negative. Can we drop that down to 30%? What's one thing we can take away or add? And this is the small changes thing. I doubt it's in frame here, but Atomic Habits, which is up there. I just got another book that I hope to talk about on the channel about something about a little and a lot. I posted the video earlier today, I think, teasing that. But this idea of small changes, and that I think can be more helpful. And man, I've harped on this a lot if you've watched this channel much, but just looking at your day and saying, what's one change I can make today that I can either do on a daily basis or just for today to help skew that number? And maybe it doesn't pull you from a negative into a neutral or a neutral into a positive, but maybe it takes you from a bad negative to a less bad negative, or pushes your neutral closer to positive. Or it's a positive thing, so maybe you look at the whole day. So I asked you what percentage of days over a time horizon makes sense for a good life, bad life, neutral life. Another question you can ask is, if you were to track each hour of your day and categorize it as good, bad, or neutral, what would they be? And for some people, actually, sleep would be a variation. So you might have had really bad sleep, and there's 8 hours in there bad. Or you're like, this is neutral, or you slept great, and that's positive. So that can affect a third of your day like that, right? So if you're tracking a lot of negative sleep days, you're going to have a lot of good effort spent in return on your investment for improving sleep. And maybe you start to slow down and you're like, well, this hour was really iffy and I could probably make it better by doing XYZ. So do that. You could win that hour back. Maybe you could win it into the neutral category. And then maybe in a couple weeks, you'd win it into the positive category. And I understand also that big events can create a skew. So you get a really bad phone call that ruins your whole day. Totally get it. So the point of all of this, and I'll start to wrap up here, is the type of questions we ask ourselves are actually really important with framing. They can also set up a framing for the wrong thing. You're going to die tomorrow. How would you live the rest of your day? Oh, I would do this, this, this. Well, see, that's what you need to be doing in life. It's like, okay, but that's not real, is it? Because over the course of a day, we can change it. I can go a whole day without drinking water and tell someone, I feel fine, that was great. But after so many days of doing that, I will die. So you can't just look at this one day question. This has to be cumulative. And so stretch out that question. Ask yourself a bunch of questions about the way you live. Ask someone to help you. Reach out to a therapist, hint, and talk to someone who could walk you through that. Friends and family can do this well also, just to be clear. But get asked the right questions and see where your life is going and where you want it to go. And be aware that you always have control. There are always things in your life that you have control over. And the things that are awful and not great that you don't have control over, you do still have control over how you internalize them, how you take them in, and how you allow them to affect your mind. You have a lot more control than you think over the life that you live, even if the majority of that control is in perspective and mindset. So take advantage of that. So that is that. As always, if this is helpful at all, if you think I'm helpful in any way, you can reach out. I have all my links on the main page. And therapeutic services, coaching and consulting services, or if you just find the videos useful in any way, you can keep watching them here or on all the other channels that are listed on the main page. And happy Monday, as always. Hope it's going well for you. See you later.